Good everyone, and welcome to this video, and today we have a load of vehicles given to me by Rudolph Antler for me to take a look at and have a well, just suggest potentially for additions, so to speak. Now, some of these vehicles are already in game, so I've removed those from the list that he's given me. He's given me a rather large list, so we'll have to do it in two parts most likely. But a lot of them are high tier based armored cars and scouts and things like that, and I'm not too interested in those. This vehicle here is pretty much my limit. So this chassis may look familiar to some players. It's the Fiat 6614, although it's named here as the 6616. I'm not really sure, but they look very similar. So I'm just gonna roll. I'm just gonna say 6614. It's easier. This appears to be armed with a 20mm autocannon, according to the notes. He didn't provide me with a picture. I had to go and find this myself. The rest of them, he pretty much, well, five of them he provided me with a picture, and, well, one of them didn't work, so I just Googled it and it came up. But this appears to be a 6614 base vehicle, 20mm anti-aircraft cannon with a machine gun coax, I think it said. Oh, I do apologize about that. That was a truck going past. Um, yeah, I've got the windows open today, and a flipping truck just went past at full whack. But yeah, so this appears to be the same gun as the R3T20 FAHS, and obviously this is not as fast as the R3. However, because it's a bigger vehicle and it probably has more ammunition if I had to take a guess, I think this could fit at 4.3. The 20mm, whilst not very effective against most targets, would still work against planes. And with it being on an armored car chassis, it would do just fine. So that's how I see it anyway. Obviously, I'm not certain if it has any additional armament. Obviously, I can see smoke grenade launchers on the side, so that could come in handy for getting out of trouble. Um, this apparently was a prototype, so it didn't actually go into production. And well, yeah, I'm all in favor of this, that's for certain. But the list is actually rather large. I've got it open on my notepad here, and essentially, to put it briefly, there's a lot. I've removed the Type 16, the AMX 10RC, and some others that, to me, don't make much sense of existing. Like, I've looked at them, and I'm questioning the resistance. Obviously, they would have probably existed as like a prototype, but I'm not the biggest fan of prototypes. Never really have. Okay, so we've gone over to 6614, and now onto something British. The British only really have what, two armored cars in game, I think. We have the T17E2 and we have the AC Mark II. So now, well, we have three technically. The Daimler armored car is another one. That's really the only one you can use in combat effectively. The rest are SPAA, so they don't really count to me. But looking at some of these armored cars, obviously this is the AEC Mark. Well, that'll be Mark III, I think it is, but that's got the 75mm. But we're not here to discuss that. This is the Humber armored car, and this appears to be armed with a 2 pounder or a 6 pounder, it looks like, in that turret, although I don't think a 6 pounder would squeeze into that turret, so probably a 2 pounder. Um, the front of it looks very weird and things like that. It's just got really weird sloping. Here's a better image for you. Um, Very weird sloping on the front. There's obviously a driver's port that reminds me of the Daimler armored car. Not certain about armor thickness, but looking at that, it's not very thick at all. Probably about 12mm. The engine I found to be about 90 horsepower from what I've been able to locate, and well, that's not bad, especially for a small armored car, but at the same time, it's quite tall. It's like a Sherman. It's like not very long for a tank, but quite tall for a tank. And this is basically the same concept for this thing. Looks like you get two smoke grenade launchers as well. Obviously, that's a 2 pounder. I don't see a coax, but it'll probably be on the left-hand side. That's normally where it is. But this doesn't look too bad, because I'm always in favor of armored cars. However, I could see a potential issue with gun depression over the front. Over the side, not so much, so it might have more on the side. But over the rear and the front, like directly on the rear and front, you can see here on the sloping, it looks, I think it could impede the gun. So maybe you could have more gun depression if you turn the vehicle to the side, or the turret to the side, and put it down over the spare tire. That's how I see it. Maybe that could be a potential way to balance it. Also, side note, Gaijin, where's the staghound? Please give us a staghound. You've given us only, what, one staghound? Oh yeah, forgot to mention, there is actually a model of this AEC armored car in game already. It's the £6 premium that, well, not premium, the event vehicle that you could get ages back. But yeah, Gaijin, where's our staghound? Please. Now, this next one he did suggest, well, he put on the list BA6, BA10X, well, he put BA10M, and well, they all look the bloody same to me, so, um, all I done is I've just found a BA6. So, this is a Russian armored car. Obviously, the Russians don't have any armored cars, if I remember rightly. Um, and let's just say these little guys, they did the job. I mean, they've got essentially a T-26 turret on the top, and they had a machine gun in the passenger side where well, next to the driver. You then had a coax in the 45. Not certain about ammo count, but from what I've been able to find, it wasn't very much. But that could be a limiting factor. Obviously, this would probably fit in at a barrel rating of about 1.3 to 1.7. It's not the fastest thing. The engine's only about 90 horsepower to 100 horsepower. It's not very much, and it weighs about 6 ton from what I've been able to find. But I'll be all in favour for armoured cars, always have been. I've always wanted to see more armoured cars in game. Obviously, all these vehicles will be able to have scouting potential. Forgot to point that out, but obviously, since Gaijin have for some reason limited it to rank 2, I don't think we're going to be having scout material in most of these vehicles anyway. Now, this next one may look very familiar to some of you. This is the SDKFC 222. And well, that turret looks very familiar, doesn't it? If you've had the SDKFC 140-1, the premium or the Czechoslovakian tank with the 20mm on top, you've basically got that turret here. And if you're a big fan of your Squeezy Boy, you're going to love this one. So obviously gun depression will be like -4 with an MG42 and a 20mm. The gun will be able to go all the way upwards, but I believe this is only a 2-crew vehicle, so if anything attacks you from above and gets a bullet in your gunner's head, you've had it. But overall, the fast mobility should help this thing. Obviously, HVAP, MG43, or MG42, I should say, to gun down light trucks and things like that if you don't want to use your 20mm, as well as help out with planes. Yeah, I've always wanted to see the 222 in game, and I mean, I fought it in Sniper Elite, which is a very good game series if you've never tried it. Specifically, Sniper Elite 3. You fight a lot of these things, as well as Panzer 4s, Panzer 3s, even a Tiger at one point. It's a really good game series, but yeah, you do see quite a lot of these. You do get to put shots through the gunner's sight and take out the gunner, and then the driver will have his hatch open. And you can put a sniper round through that, and then you don't have to destroy the vehicle, but you get extra points if you do. Which I like. That's what I like. But yeah, I've been more than happy to see this in game. It's a nice little armored car. Now this one he put in the TD/Scouts, obviously that folder or that TD note here. This thing won't be released as a scout, so I'm guessing this is probably just going to be a TD. And I can already hear Jane Prawn beating his meat over this one. This is the Sonderklaffwerkzeug 251, and well, you can clearly see here it's got a pack 40, and oh, this would be a nightmare. As if the Puma wasn't bad enough, you now get a half-track version, which would do better over most terrain. Oh my god. And I mean, you get a bucket, so you get bonus points straight away. But let's just say this vehicle would be amazing. I think it could fit in the tech tree. That's the funny thing. It would work in the tank destroy line, maybe after the Marder 3 is where I think it could go. Because it'd be faster than a Marder. It's got the same gun as a Marder 3H, but it also has, well, less armor but higher mobility. Not certain about ammo count, but even so, I'd be more than happy to see this in game. And it looks like there's a pintle mount for a MG34/MG42, so that could come in handy. We'll just have to see, won't we? Now this next one, I've seen a lot of these already, and I knew exactly why these existed. For those of you who are not familiar with your Italian armoured cars, that is a Autoblinder 41 in German service. They tend to be used in German service. You fought them under Italian service in Sniper Elite 3, and they're actually pretty dang good to deal with. Well, they're pretty damn tough to deal with. Obviously, the main weaknesses of the vehicle in that game were driver's port, gunner's sight, and rear MG port. Because the rear MG port actually worked in that game, and it was quite a devastating machine gun. But if you could actually traverse the turret and shoot it with Panzerfaust, that was the end of it. It was an armored car, it's not going to take that. But rank 1 premium, maybe? Like, I don't know, just a cheap premium, about 450 Golden Eagles, that could work. Obviously, the Autoblinder 41 in the Italian tree doesn't have scouting, so this would just be a generic armored car for the Germans. And to be honest, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. It's not going to be a game breaking, it's not going to be anything. It's just going to be Autoblinder 41 in German service, which means you can team it up with German Panzer IIs, and that is just going to be amazing. So yeah, more than happy to see this in a game as well. Now this next one is again going to have James beating his meat. This is the Sonderklappfahrzeug 233 with the 75mm from the 234-3. Excuse me there. And well, let's just say this vehicle is essentially an overweight Puma. You can see it's a lot larger than a Puma, so it'd be easier to spot, but that gun would still work as well. Mobility-wise, they appear to be about the same, but I think because of the larger size, this could go into tech tree at 1.7 to accommodate the premium Puma. Now, why do I say this? Well, the reason for that is because I don't see where else this could go. Maybe a event vehicle, but we've seen that already, so you don't really want to basically copy paste the gun. And well, it's a good gun. I mean, I'm not the best of it, but I've slowly been getting used to it as I drive mine and get it finished for a review and things like that. But yeah, well, I'm well chuffed with this thing. Obviously, it's a bit large. It's got probably no armor, like probably about 10mm on the side, 30 at the front, as with most German armored cars. But yeah, I don't think this thing will be that game breaking, so probably 1.3 to 1.7. That's my prediction anyway. And the final one is defo going to turn some heads. This is the Sonderklappfahrzeug 234-1. And again, if you looked at the 222 earlier and you saw that, well, to tell you the truth, this is essentially that, but it's on a Puma chassis, which is even better. Obviously, we have the 2 in game in the main tech tree. We have the 3 which you could get during Operation Summer back in 2018, and then you have the Dash 4, which is the pack wagon, which you could get. That was an event vehicle, if I remember rightly, for something. I can't remember when. But yeah, this is essentially the Sonderklappfahrzeugs, the 140-1 turrets, obviously MG42 20mm on a Puma chassis. Now, balancing this thing would be a bit of an arse, and why do I say that? Well, the Puma chassis, obviously, we already know is absolutely freaking fast. The pack wagon already devastates at high tier, it devastates at mid tier, it devastates at the tier it's at. The dirt wagon devastates at the tier it's at, etc, etc. You know what I'm saying here. So does the Dash 2 Puma. It's just, with its firepower being just a 20mm cannon, it would be very limited in its anti-tank capabilities if you put it at 1.7. Fair enough, down tiered, not a problem. But it's up tiers against like Matildas, Lees, and things like that. So I think 1.3 would probably be the best portion where you could put this thing and call it balanced, because the HVAP on the 20 mil loses a lot of pen. So I'm thinking, and well, not only that, this thing could replace the Do 17Z7 in the clubbers lineup, and having a Puma in that lineup would just make the clubbers absolutely devastating to fight against. And obviously, I do go full tryhard when I'm playing the clubbers. And to tell you the truth, having a Puma in my arsenal would just make it even better. Which means you'd essentially have three 20mm armed tanks to deal with. Well, technically this is an armored car. You'd have the Flak Panzer to deal with, the Panzer II. You'd have this, you'd have the King of the Clubbers. In fact, no, you'd have four vehicles to deal with 20 mil. And because of the high rate of fire, you will not get a shot off if I get the first shot off. Simple fact. So yeah, I think 1.3 could work for this thing. Now, obviously, I do have a load more to go over, but he does have obviously other nations for the future. I can go over these if you want, but obviously this is a list for armored cars, wheeled vehicles, light tank scouts, and all that. But I've got over most of these, so um, obviously we've got the TAM as well. That's already been added, so I'm just going to remove that. But obviously B1 Centauro or Centauro, because that's how you're supposed to say it. You don't say Centauro, you say it's Centauro. 105mm stabilizer. Personally, I don't think that thing needs a stabilizer. You said some variants are said to be amphibious, and there's just a load of armored cars. Obviously, 6616, which I went over. M113 vehicles, such as well, that would be the CDAM 25, so we don't need to worry about that one. But most of these, obviously, USA are in desperate need of some armored cars. And they really are. I mean, every single armored car they've had is an event vehicle. So, Gaijin, please give us a Greyhound without the 50 on top. I'd gladly have that. I don't care if I lose the 50. Just get us an armored car for the or the Americans. Get us an armored car for Russia. Get us an armored car for France. That isn't export vehicles and things like that. Britain, again, Guy armored car, AEC armored car, Humber Mark IV, etc. There's so much you could add, Gaijin. It's just unbelievable. But yeah, I think I'll leave it at that for today. If you want to see another part to this, if you wanted me to cover the rest of the armored cars, even though most of them are high tier, so I won't know a thing about them. But if you want me to do that anyway, do let me know. Obviously, I promised Rudolph that I'd get this out as soon as possible because I've had it sat in the backlog for ages. Obviously, I'm recording today on the 5th of June. I have the exam today. You won't see this till um, the 19th or the 20th, one or two, if I remember rightly. But I said to him I'd get it out as soon as possible. Right, well, now this is off my mind, I don't really want to go into my exam filled with knowledge about armored cars and half tracks and things like that. So I better go get back to revising. I will leave it at that for today. Obviously, I've blabbered about 18 minutes or so. And, well, I hope you enjoyed seeing some of these vehicles. Obviously, um, if you want me to go for the second part, do let me know, and I'll get around to doing it at some point. Anyway, I'll let you guys off. I hope you enjoyed today's video on these TDs and scouts and things like that. And I will catch you all on the next one.